In today's global race for technology and dominance, a new battleground has emerged, one that could define the future of energy, transportation, and power itself. The story we're about to unfold is bigger than politics, bigger than economics, and bigger than cars. It's about who will control the very foundation of mobility in the coming decades. China has just made a bold, trillion-dollar move. A move that isn't just about buying electric cars, but about locking in control of the next great technological revolution, self-powered electric vehicles. And where did China place this massive bet? Not in Silicon Valley. Not in Germany or Japan. But in Africa, the continent many once overlooked, now standing at the very center of the world's energy transformation. Imagine a car that charges itself. No plugging into the grid. No reliance on costly charging networks. A vehicle that generates and sustains its own energy. For years, this sounded like science fiction, a dream more than a reality. But now, Africa has developed a breakthrough, a self-powered EV, capable of running independently without traditional charging stations. And before the United States, before Europe, before anyone else could act, China swooped in with a staggering $1 trillion investment deal. This is not just business. This is strategy. This is power. For decades, China has been playing the long game, securing rare earth metals, dominating battery production, and building EV infrastructure at breakneck speed. But now, it has gone a step further, ensuring it controls the world's first generation of self-sustaining EVs. The US, once the undisputed leader in innovation, is now finding itself reacting rather than leading. While American automakers focused on catching up with Tesla, and policymakers debated the future of clean energy, China quietly made its move and secured a technology that could eliminate the single biggest weakness of electric cars: their dependence on charging infrastructure. Africa, with its abundant resources, young innovators, and untapped potential, has become the perfect partner. What many failed to see, China recognized early. By securing Africa's self-powered EV technology, Beijing not only gains control of a revolutionary product but also strengthens its grip on the global EV supply chain. The implications are massive. Think about it. If China controls self-powered EVs, it controls the next generation of transportation. No reliance on gas. No reliance on foreign charging grids. A car that can sustain itself becomes more than just a product, it becomes a symbol of independence, a tool for global influence, and a trillion-dollar weapon in the economic battlefield. For Africa, this deal is both an opportunity and a gamble. On one hand, it brings unprecedented investment, jobs, and global recognition. On the other, it raises the question: who truly benefits? Will Africa be the leader of this revolution, or will it once again be the supplier of resources and ideas while others take the profits? For the US and its allies, the challenge is clear. Falling behind on this breakthrough means more than just losing an auto race. It means surrendering influence over one of the world's fastest-growing and most critical industries. It means watching as China cements itself as the undisputed leader of the EV era. This trillion-dollar power grab is not just about cars. It's about geopolitics, technology, and the shifting balance of global power. So, the big question is, what happens next? Will the US rally, invest, and fight back in this technological race? Or has China already secured the decisive advantage that will keep it ahead for decades to come? And perhaps the most important question of all, what does this mean for the rest of us? For everyday people, consumers, and future generations who will be driving these cars, living in this new energy world, and witnessing the reshaping of global power dynamics? The future is being written right now. And in this race, hesitation is defeat. China has moved. Africa has delivered. And the United States? It may already be too late. This is the trillion-dollar shift that will define the next century. To understand the magnitude of this trillion-dollar move, we need to step back and see the bigger picture. For decades, China has been preparing for a future where energy, not oil, defines global power. While the West was focused on fossil fuel dominance, military campaigns, and protecting oil shipping routes, China was quietly building a different empire, an empire powered by technology, minerals, and mobility. Africa, often underestimated, became the silent partner in this vision. With vast reserves of rare earth elements, lithium, cobalt, and other critical resources, Africa was already essential for battery production. But now, Africa's engineers, innovators, and startups have surprised the world with something far more valuable: the concept and execution of a self-powered EV. Unlike traditional electric cars, which depend on a web of charging stations, power grids, and expensive infrastructure, these vehicles use advanced regenerative systems, integrated renewable technology, and in some cases experimental energy harvesting materials that allow them to sustain themselves. This doesn't just make cars cheaper to run, it changes the entire business model of the auto industry. And that's why China acted so quickly. For Beijing, this wasn't just about securing a new car. It was about eliminating America's last advantage. Think about Tesla. For years, it symbolized the future of EVs, leading the way in battery efficiency software integration and charging networks. But now, if charging itself becomes obsolete, the entire infrastructure race Tesla built its empire on could be bypassed overnight. China knows this. And so does the United States. That's why this deal is so much bigger than headlines suggest. $1 trillion investment is not just money. It's a strategic lock-away to ensure no rival can step in, no competitor can take over, and no government can easily block access. For Africa, the deal is transformational. In exchange for technology rights and production partnerships, countries stand to gain modern infrastructure, advanced research centers, and new manufacturing hubs that could employ thousands. This isn't just about cars driving down African roads. It's about creating Africa's first real foothold in the global automotive market. For too long, Africa was seen as a consumer, not a creator. Now, with China's backing, that perception could change forever. But there is a darker side to this story. Critics argue that China's investment isn't just partnership, it's control. With financial power comes influence. With influence comes dependency. If Africa's self-powered EV revolution becomes tied entirely to China, then African nations risk losing ownership of their greatest invention. The same story has played out with oil, gas, and minerals. Will history repeat itself, just with a different kind of energy? Meanwhile, the United States faces a dilemma. Washington is aware of the stakes. The White House and major automakers are scrambling to respond. But America's greatest weakness has always been speed. Policy debates, lobbying, and internal politics slow down decision-making. By the time Congress argues over subsidies and tax credits, China has already written the next chapter. This is why many experts are calling this a Sputnik moment for the US. Just as the launch of the Soviet satellite shocked America into action in the 1950s, this trillion-dollar EV move might be the wake-up call the US needs. The question is whether the response will come fast enough. Globally, the impact could be revolutionary. If self-powered EVs become mass-produced, the oil industry will face collapse far sooner than expected. Countries dependent on oil exports could see their economies shaken. Energy geopolitics, which for a century has revolved around pipelines and shipping lanes, will suddenly shift to technology patents, mineral rights, and innovation hubs. In other words, the next OPEC may not be a group of oil nations. It may be a network of technology holders, and right now, China is positioning itself at the very center. But let's not forget the human side of this story. Imagine a world where people in remote villages, far from power grids, can own cars that sustain themselves. Imagine cities with cleaner air, transportation costs slashed, and independence from fuel imports. For ordinary people, this could mean freedom. For developing nations, it could mean a leap forward that skips an entire century of industrial dependency. That's why this deal matters so much. It's not just business. It's not just cars. It's the future of how humanity moves, powers itself, and defines prosperity. And so the battle lines are clear. China has acted. Africa has delivered. The US hesitates. The world watches. What happens next will determine not only who leads in EVs, but who leads the 21st century. And so, we arrive at the question that defines it all. What does this trillion-dollar move really mean? On the surface, it looks like a simple business deal. China invests, Africa benefits, the US falls behind. But beneath the numbers lies something far more profound. This is about control, about influence, and about who writes the next chapter of human mobility. If China succeeds, it won't just be the world's largest EV manufacturer, it will hold the keys to a technology that could reshape entire economies. By securing Africa's self-powered EV breakthrough, Beijing is sending a message. The future of energy will not be built in Washington or Detroit, but in partnerships stretching across continents, driven by speed, vision, and unrelenting ambition. For Africa, this is a moment of possibility. A chance to lead, to innovate, and to break free from centuries of being treated as a resource supplier. The question is whether Africa can hold on to its ownership of this invention, or whether its brightest idea will be absorbed into someone else's empire. And for the United States, this is a wake-up call. Falling behind on this front means more than losing a race in cars. It means ceding influence in the global energy transition, the single most important shift of our century. America can no longer afford to react. It must lead, or risk watching its rivals shape the world without it. But the bigger picture is this: the age of oil is ending, and the age of energy independence is beginning. Self-powered EVs are not just vehicles. They are symbols of a future where transportation is free from fossil fuel chains, where nations are not held hostage by oil markets, and where innovation decides destiny. China has already made its trillion-dollar bet. Africa has delivered its breakthrough. And now the rest of the world must decide: will they join the race, or will they be left behind, watching from the sidelines as the next great industrial revolution passes them by? This isn't just about China versus the US. It's about all of us. Because the winner of this race won't just control the EV market, they'll control the future of mobility, energy, and global power. The trillion-dollar question is no longer if this future is coming. The question is who will own it. And right now, China is one giant step ahead. And as this story unfolds, one thing is certain: the race for the future has already begun. The question is not just who wins, but how it will shape the world we live in. If you found this journey eye-opening, if you want to keep exploring the battles, the breakthroughs, and the bold moves that are rewriting our world, then make sure you stay with us. Hit subscribe, tap the notification bell, and join us as we uncover the hidden stories behind technology, power, and the future of innovation. Because what you've just seen is only the beginning.